This is the way I'm finding a number of the renderings. The subject, in this case the stomach obviously, right, is being lit from behind, and the surface facing the camera is being lit by the fill light, which in this case and throughout the semester we've been using an area light. So this is the way the scene is set up. So let's go to the four view. And maybe let me make this a little smaller over here. So I find the top view the most helpful when I'm doing lighting. Okay, now this is the view I'm rendering here, the perspective view. You can see here's my area light. And remember, the area light, its intensity in the scene is affected by your scaling it. If you scale it larger, it gets brighter. So even though there's an intensity over here in the attribute editor for the light, your easiest way to scale it is to to change its intensity is to scale. So scale it bigger. Also very important, when you add an area light, there's a normalize function here. By default, it's on. Notice when I click it on, the effect of the light right away is diminished. If I click it off, now I can adjust that intensity. And again, usually it's by scaling that I find the most effective way to do that. But our problem right now is I'm looking at the anterior view of the stomach in my perspective window here, but that's not the way it's lit. So I've got my key light, which is a direct light. See, its intensity is set to 2.8, it's almost 3. Area light's about a third. Okay, its intensity is actually it's even less than a third. It's almost a quarter. It's at 0.7. Okay, so that's a good balance. Now there's one other light in the scene, the dome light, and that's down to 0.36, which is really soft. So remember, the dome light is totally designed to just give a general overall lighting. So if we go into the channel box and we turn off the dome light, type the letter 0 or the number 0. See, that's what the scene looks like without the dome light. Notice how it's just very dramatic. Okay, so if I put the dome light on, even with that 0.36, it's adding an overall luminosity, okay, an overall sense of lighting. So it's the difference between almost a theatrical lighting and a more general daylight. The directional light and which is in this case our key light, and the area light, we basically are opposing one another. The directional light is giving should be giving the predominant light source, and the area light should be filling the shadow so it doesn't get too dark. So what I'm going to do, the dome light really isn't of much consequence here. It's basically going to surround the entire scene. So moving it isn't really going to change it. All I can really do with that is alter its intensity. But if I take the directional light, if I select it and the area light, and then I go under Edit Group, okay, now I have a group. Now, the pivot point of that group, you can see here, is somewhat in the middle of the stomach. Now, I may want to actually hold down the letter D and move that pivot point to a position that I think is better suited for the stomach. Now, once I have that group established, okay, and that group has the area light and the directional light, I can use the rotate tool to rotate the group around my subject. And it's very much like the I'm able to create from almost any angle the type of lighting I want. Now if I rotate the camera, which is what a lot of you are doing, and that's a good thing. That's what you should be doing. But then you need to be careful because you end up like this. You end up with your lights in the wrong position. You want the area light to be that fill light, and you want the direct light to be your key light, to be modeling the form. So let's see if we take this window and render. It shouldn't take too long. You can see we've got some decent form. We've got some cast shadow. That's that fill light. Now maybe the fill light's a little too strong. Let's see what happens if we take just the fill light. Now you can click on the group in the outliner to move the whole set, or you can click directly on one of the lights. And if I scale that down a little bit, okay, what I'm doing is, and I can move this light as well inside the group, if I want to do that. But now I think what we'll see, if I render this again, we might see, I didn't do a lot, but I think you'll see a little bit of a difference. So there's, let's take the area light even further down. Okay, and render one more time. Okay, so here's what's happened with that area light. Pretty soft. You can see it's giving me a little bit of a kind of a reflected value here and along this edge. If I go, you can see how that's the first one where the area light was larger, how much more illuminated that area is. There's a little soft change and now a much more dramatic change. So you can control how dramatic that shadow gets. So that's how you should be positioning your lights, and how once you establish a relationship that you like between the direct light and the area light, when you group them like that, you can then continually illuminate your subject from any angle without creating a loss of form. And that's unfortunately what's happening when you're instead using that area light to be your prime light. Okay.